Hey folks, welcome to another video of a blind ham radio operator's ham radio adventures. And if you've seen my Facebook post, look what found its way home. If you didn't, got an antenna project for you. Let's go.
Thank you very much for 39173. Good luck. Yours it?
America Bravo 8 to Lima Lima 55353 Park Victor Echo 5395 QSL.
Okay, so here we are. We're doing the radials for what found its way back home there a couple of nights ago. Here with Joe, VO1ZU, Aaron, VO1IV, and that's what we're doing now. We're cutting 16 radials. No, 12.
Stay with you too much.
12 radials.
12 radials to 16 feet long.
Yeah, and we have 8 down that we put down yesterday.
Yeah, hold on though.
Hang on.
Alright.
So you'll see that now shortly when we go out and start laying them down. I didn't film putting the vertical together yesterday because, well, I was kind of needed my hands to hold stuff together.
It was a buyer.
So it was kind of spur. We didn't think we were actually going to get at it till next weekend. But we kind of decided to forego Winter Field Day to finish this 05 project. My fan dipole kind of went schizoid on me the last couple of weeks during some of our windstorms. So I've purchased the 05 back. We put it up yesterday. Dropped down a couple of radials last night, and now we're going to finish it today.
Alright, so we got 12 radials cut up, 16 feet long. And now I'm just going to solder on some rings, get all that squared away. And then we'll be ready to put them out on the radial plate. Get them laid down. And we'll get to the coil.
The Oges coil. Is the coil in here?
I was in truck.
Okay.
In truck.
You'll have to see that coil before it goes installed. It came off an old AM transmitter.
Yeah.
It's pretty hefty.
It's pretty hefty. We're hoping to put this on 40 and 80 meters with that coil.
Get this all warmed up and going.
All right, probably good there, Joe. All right, so here we are. We got our radials made.
Yep, they're all done.
And we decided to do what we can indoors first. So Aaron is making up a template to switch the coil.
Yep.
We're going to use this big coil. Oh, and
Grab the coil.
I will get
Yep.
the coil.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go from the 1-to-1 isolation balun up into the coil. We're going to feed the coil directly, right? You can see where the input tap is too. Turn that down. There we go. So yeah, we're going to feed this coil directly from the 1-to-1, and then we're going to go through the coil and have different taps. So I have a tap for 40, which is probably just going to be direct because it's 32 feet. We'll have a tap for 80, which we'll just say for argument's sake is going to be here, and a tap for 160, which we're going to say is just at the top of the coil. So for Mike, and just for ease of changing bands, instead of going out and counting down how many taps you got and then putting a clip onto it and everything else, we're going to have fixed taps. That's going to come up to a homemade switch network right here. So we'll have the antenna itself go from this one to the antenna, right? So we'll have this nut here, or this bolt. And then we're going to have a 40 meter bolt, which will go to the 40 meter tap on the coil. An 80 meter bolt, which will go to the 80 meter tap on the coil. and a 160 bolt, which will go to the 160 tap on the coil. And all you do to change bands is you'd have a piece of braid, piece of coax shield or whatnot. You go from here to here for 40, take it off, move to 80, take it off, move to 160. So that's how you're going to be able to change your bands. Right? Bring in the taps without having to move, mess with the coil and stuff like that, right?
Yep. And before I get all the comments on, oh, that won't work on 160, it won't be very efficient. 160 is coming later on in the summer when the vertical actually gets lengthened out to 43 feet. Because we have done this with the 05 before. We put a loading coil on it, bypassed the 4-to-1 and unbalanced that comes with the 05s.
Yep.
And it worked a treat. On 160 with a dedicated coil and 25 radials underneath of it. We managed to crack Argentina in the ARRL SSB with it. We've done some really nice DX with it.
Yep.
So we're going to do this coil now, and then later on the summer, the vertical will be extended up to its full height, possibly even longer, because I've got some aluminum out there. I got an 11.5 foot MQ34 boom and other bits of aluminum, and we might try to get that sucker into actual quarter wave range of 80 meters, up around 60 feet, 66 feet. Then we'll guy it, and then coil load it for 160, and I'm putting a monobander up on the tower for 40 meters. So that's the long plan. So there we go. So that's what's going on so far, and when we're ready to go, we're going to go out and we're going to put all this together out in -20 wind chill today. Okay, so this is the antenna right now. Aaron's working away. We got to drop the feed point down a little bit, and there's the Otis coil mounted. And we're going to put that switch plate that we were looking at earlier, probably somewhere on top of this, and I'll tap it back and forth. And there you see the vertical. It's 33.5 feet at the moment. Like I said, I'm hoping to later on the summer drop down a few more radials and extend that out and use this on 80 and 160 and put up a mono band on the tower, mono end dipole. But yeah, I wish I'd had time to get this on film yesterday when we put it together, but it was just a nice day and we just kept going. And as you can see, we're all bundled up in our Arctic gear. It's like -20 with the wind chill. And of course, you got to do antenna projects in the middle of winter.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Best time. Something to do with that cold, man. The cold makes it work.
Makes you work faster.
Yeah, and it makes the antenna work. So, okay, back out in the Barrens. -20 degrees up in the Arctic Circle. What are we doing, Aaron?
I'm feeding the switch gear now.
Focus in on that, Joe.
Yes,
Doesn't that
sir.
look sexy?
Oh yeah.
Old cutting board, man. It's just an old cutting board with bolts up through it and braid.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Here come the comments. That's not going to work.
That's not going to work. That's not good enough.
That's going to catch fire.
Janky.
We are the kings of jank.
Well, we're resourceful is what we are.
We're resourceful.
I
think you got to hand it to us. I think we're resourceful.
You got to be at this racket, but
Yeah.
That's what this hobby is, being resourceful.
I mean, check out that coil. Look, that came out of an old AM broadcasting center
that
in
come
St.
out of
John.
that come out of VOWR.
Yep.
That was out of the tank circuit.
Yep.
If that ain't bomb proof, you don't know what is.
What is? Yep. I'm optimistic. I'm positively optimistic because here's the deal. We had this loaded up before at 43 feet with a 70 turn number 12 wire coil. So that did the job on that.
Yeah.
Why can't that one?
Look what we're putting on it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, look at the hardware. We got all flat braid at 213 and
Yep.
you know,
Why
all
can't
nice
that work?
soldered connections, all nice and clean. So
She's pretty mint.
The trick is, will we get the soldering hot enough out here today to get that onto the coil? That might be the challenge.
Time will tell.
If the wind drops a little bit, which is, it's not overly windy, but there's a breeze.
It did drop off quite a bit, though.
Yeah. So that might give us a chance. And we're on the west side, so this is where the sun is going to come around to heat everything up. Might work. Fingers crossed. Anyway, so here we are now. Aaron is deploying radials. We're pinning them down. We're going to have 20 in total. And Joe can focus on the antenna there for a moment. There you see the coil And the switching system. Right now the coax is disconnected, but for grins, with that antenna as it is there, we did a test on 160, and we found that the 3.1 resonance point, or the 3.1 to 1, 3 to 1 SWR window, there you go, was at 2.2 to 2.5 megs. So that tells us if we extended a bit and add more radios, we might be able to bring the resonant point down and to the 160 meter band. The goal here, though, if we can get a 3 to 1 on 80 meters and a 3 to 1 on 40 for the rest of the winter, I will be tickled pink. It will be absolutely tickled pink. Right now, though, it's absolutely perfect on 40. It's like from 7 to 7.3. I think that's 7.3 megahertz. It's like 2 to 1, yep. 2.5 to 1, something like that.
At 7.0 was like 1.2, 1.3, something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Top of the band is
2.8.
2.8-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
Something like that. So we're thinking, you know, if we extend it, we might be able to get this working even on 3 bands with a 3 to 1 SWR, which I think will be absolutely fantastic. Because keep in mind, if you're dumping, like, when I unfed that antenna when I had it first for 10 years, I was having like 11 to 12 SWR on 80 meters, dumping power into it. 5 to 1 then from 40 and up, dumping power. So I was losing about 400 or 500 watts of my kilowatt on 80 meters. If I got that down to 3 to 1, you know, that's what, maybe 100 watts out of my K? Maybe 200, right, tops. So if I'm losing 100 to 200 watts out of my kilowatt on all 3 bands, I mean, I'm going to be pretty happy. I really will. But if not, and the antenna ends up being a 68 meter antenna, and I put up a mono band for 40 on the tower, the Mosley going, I should have a decent antenna system here on this property. Should be pretty good.
You almost wouldn't need a tuner.
Wouldn't need a tuner, no. Alright, here we are back out on the tundra. It's getting dusky, as you all can see.
Beautiful evening.
4 more radios. Yeah, it's beautiful evening. 4 more radios. We seem to be getting our 160 down a little bit, but of course we're compromising everywhere else.
So we're losing 40.
We're losing 40, but
The better you make the 160,
yeah. So we're kind of hoping if we can get a compromise here between 3 bands or even 2.
well, 80 be fine. You'll find the perfect connection.
Yeah. So, but it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. We'll see what we can do with it. Yeah, so like when we lengthened it and put on the direct feed for 40 meters, we lowered the feed point. That was expected. It was going to affect the performance. 6,700 kilohertz. It's flat. Too bad we couldn't transmit there.
Like 31
Yeah, all of that.
1.05 to 1, 51 ohms.
Yeah, and then when you get into the 7 megahertz range, it goes from 3 to 4.
Yeah.
But
if we shorten it, we could get that on 40, but then 160 would be like 4 or 5 to 1, right?
yeah. There is a notch at 7.5 that's like 2 to 1. If we could get that down the band, who knows? We'll keep trying while we got daylight. Put down these 4 radios. That'll give us 24 in total.
The ones I'm putting down now are long ones.
Yep. We got what? We got
About
3
40 foot.
footers.
One for, we got 3 for 40, 1 for 80.
Yeah. So let's see if we can get some nice compromise found. Like I said, if I can get 3 to 1 on 40 and 80, I'll be tickle pink for the rest of the winter. Okay, so here we are with the new coil in and out system, the dollar store 9000, and explain it there and then show it.
So, the way we have this set up is that you'll see right here on top of the feed point box, that's where your radiating side comes from, we'll say. Get it there, Joe, if you can.
Yep.
And then for 40 meters, it just comes up directly to the 40 meter tap, through the blade, through this switch, and to the antenna element, and carries on. Now what we found is that if we still had the coil in line down here, right? With the coil still in line, it's just loading the coil and we're not radiating very well. So essentially this switch here, coil, we can move in from the out of line position over here to the inline position.
I got the wind nut in my pocket.
Right? So you're moving here to the inline position, like so. So now we're going from the radiator point through this switch into the coil, and then up here to the 80 or 160 tap. Right? The reason why we're doing this is that where this is set to a quarter wave on 40, another 33 feet, trying to have the coil bypass just on one side causes it to load and cause a distortion in the radiation pattern and stuff like that. So we only need it for 80 and 160, so essentially we can bring that whole matching network in and out as we need it. So now it's time to go in with the 40 meter position all set up.
See if we got that fixed.
See what the resonance is like, and then it's find the 80 meter position and make up the tap, and that's it.
Solder it up.
And it's all done.
There you see the finished product, and had a little bump in the road. I mean, it was very finicky to adjust, and in the 80 meter position with this big coil, I've got roughly a 3-to-1 SWR between 3700 and 3800. So I got 100 kilohertz bandwidth, maybe a little more. Maybe I can get down to 3650. It might be still around 3-to-1. So call it 150 kilohertz bandwidth, which is to be expected with a shortened element and a loading coil. So now it's set in the 80 meter position, and I think the end game for this antenna, I'm probably just going to add to it and actually get it at a quarter wave for 80 meters. So I've got enough aluminum around that I can put 17 or 18 feet of actual aluminum extra to make this thing closer to a quarter wave on 80 meters with the direct fed down below, and then use this coil there, that big Ogis coil, to load that 60-foot tall antenna for 160. Because from the experiments yesterday, we saw that at the very top of the coil, I mean, there was a usable SWR between 2.2 and 2.5 megahertz. I mean, I say usable. I mean, it was 3.5 to 1. I mean, most rigs would probably take it out, low power. So pull that thing up to like 43 foot, maybe add another 17 feet, get it up to 60 feet. And I suspect with that coil and the radials we got down, I'd get that down into the 160 meter band, no problem, with maybe a 2.5, 3-to-1 SWR across the band. And then go back to the direct feed option for 80 meters. So that's probably going to be the end game, and then a monoband 40 meter dipole on the tower. Or maybe this might be just set up to a direct fed monoband for 160, and I might throw a 5 BTV out in the garden, the other end of the property. That'll give me 80 and 40. A little crooked now because from the meter wasn't telling me good numbers, and everybody knows I'm visually impaired, and I have to utilize that talking watt meter to its fullest extended possibility. It's all I have to tell me what my numbers are. So what I'm initially seeing direct through my tuner, numbers on my meter like 2.8 to 1, 3.2 to 1. I mean, you're not really going to want to dump power to that if it's 100 watts coming out of the rig, and you're seeing 3.2 to 1 and 2.8 to 1 and so on. So I got a little upset, and kind of clashed a little bit on the project towards this point. And it turns out there was a switch in my tuner that was loose. So that's tightened up, and we just did a test in there on 80 meters, and it's fine. Will I keep using it? Who knows? We'll see how well it works. Stuff is not cheap anymore, and tubes are not cheap. So I mean, that's an exposed coil. What happens if, I decide to dump 700 watts into this one nice Friday night over the rest of the winter and DX, and I just can't will myself to say, oh well. But anyway, let's see if I can operate this. Change it over to 40 where we know it's great. There's no worries about it. So I loosen this lead. And I'm coming this way, right, Joe?
No, other way.
I'm going over here, okay. So let's see if I can do this. So I got to loosen this lead. And I'll welcome the comments because I'm probably going to get them at this point. While you're doing all this, throw up an end fed.
So there's wing nuts on
that one
each
too,
one
yeah.
already, so
I'm gonna move that. Let me put this in my pocket so I don't drop it. It's not so chilly as it was yesterday. It's about -2 here today. So we're not on the tundra this morning. Or this afternoon. All right, so I loosen that. Take that off. And this comes across. Put that down. And slide over the washers. I mean, it's not a bad concept if you can trust it.
we're probably going to omit the washers just for ease of use.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not a bad concept with an antenna like this if you can trust it. You know, can I trust it? It's a big enough coil. Shouldn't be any problems.
It's an old AM broadcaster
It's an old
coil.
AM broadcaster that was handling 10 kilowatts.
So that should do it.
But, what happens if this all gets wet and gets, I don't know. So now down here at the bottom,
So you're going to take off the right side wing nut.
I got to take off the right side. Okay, well, actually, let me put these other ones back so I don't lose them. That one there. Have to go on Amazon then and order a bag of
Quarter-inch wing nuts.
bag of wing nuts because I lost one. Cost me like $15. That's what you want to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't know if I'm supposed to plug that other company or not. I mean, I might get a strike. Who knows? Who cares? Okay, so now we go below. This is going to be the left or right?
The right side.
Okay. Started on loosening the left side.
Left
That'd be
side
good.
wing nut is for on those extremely windy days you can pin that lead onto the other terminal there so it's not flapping about.
I don't mind if that's going to flap. I don't think that'll do anything. It won't reach. That shouldn't.
Don't touch the stud,
It will. You're absolutely right.
which in the breeze could
Yep.
arc. So maybe it is advisable to.
Maybe it is. Yep. Note: before 4:30 p.m. Newfoundland Standard Time, one of your jobs is to go out and mess with your antenna for the band you want to work that night. Right? Someone wants to, I'll gladly take donations if somebody wants to help me out and give me a,
BT5E.
no, well, that too, but I'll take that. Yeah. But to help me save up for maybe an automatic adjustable system inside the shack. See, that to me, I'm having difficulty with that. That's going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, the washers are not needed.
It's actually a good thing it's not terribly cold, because if this was -20 today, I wouldn't be at this with my bare hands.
Alright.
All right, so we're back now with the wrap up, and I guess as you can see by my background, it wasn't same day. This was completed on Sunday as I'm recording this, and now it's Tuesday evening. So, yeah. Couple of little issues with the coil, and I think it has to do with the fact that it's an exposed coil and exposed connections. I think for a long-term solution, I might have to find a way to actually get all that enclosed and possibly use maybe jacketed leads on the connection. We had some snow last couple of days too. And last night, and of course, I came out this morning to mess around with the antenna to change it over to 80 meters. And the cutting boards, well, the cutting board on top was covered in snow. And although 40 was fine when I moved it to the 80 meter position, because of the snow buildup, I couldn't snug the connection down the way I wanted. There was a layer of frost on the coil itself, so I was getting SWR waivers or SWR fluctuations with my meter. So, like, through the tuner, on-tuned, the SWR is about 3 to 1, like we said through the video. But when I tuned it out, my SWR was bumping up between 1.0 to 1 to like 2, 2.5, things like that. Similar to what my fan went through before the fan dipole came down, which needs to be repaired. So not great when it's not really connected solid and has some ice and snow build up all over it. The temperature shot up this afternoon, and we got some rain and wind. And before the rain came, I went out and actually changed a couple of things. I removed some washers and cinched the connection down better, and it made a much better connection. The coil was nice and dry, and the SWR fluctuations went away. Question I have to ask myself, I mean, for 100 watts, it's probably going to be absolutely fine. I went down to the FT8 window this afternoon where the SWR through the tuner on the coil for 80 meters was like 6 to 1. It tuned it down to 1.6. Up in the DX window, you know, it dropped from a 3 to 1 down to flat. Can it handle power? And I think that's my concern. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be comfortable enough to run power through this by myself, and that kind of defeats the purpose. So it's either going to have to be enclosed, and maybe one of my helpers who's helping me do all of these projects may not like what I'm going to say, but it might be best if I just put the brand new 4 to 1 Anon on it, 2 leads. My MFJ 998 tuner handled this antenna for 10 years with the Anon 4 to 1, no issue, and I dumped a kilowatt into it. So that's kind of where my head is moving to. I'll put the Anon back on. It's a 5 kilowatt Anon, and then maybe look at a separate coil solution for 160. Basically bypass the Anon for 160. And this would be, again, enclosed coil with jacketed wire like I had a number of years ago. I had no problem with leaving this out in the snow, but this solution I kind of do. Throwing up other antennas, getting 5 BTV verticals. I mean, why not just put the Anon on it? I already have it. It'll make it a bit more broadbanded from 80 to 10 meters if I want to do the work bands or anything like that, or 60 meters. And then I've got my beam for 20, 15, and 10. So that's probably where my head is at. It's just something for me to be able to manage better. Once the Anon is hooked up, I wouldn't have to touch it. So yeah, I did own this antenna at one time, and I sold it because I needed the money, and then I got it back last week because my fan dipole crapped the bed on me. And I needed the antenna up for 80 meters and 40 meters over the rest of the winter for a couple of contests that I want to do. But I'm just not sure if I can dump high power into the 80 meter side. But we'll find out. I'm going to try to play in a contest this weekend. We'll see how it goes, and maybe I'll try it tonight and see how it goes. I hope I'll get some sort of warning, like maybe a little bit of a hiss from my tuner. I don't know. I am nervous, really nervous about the 80 meter side of this antenna set up the way it is. So it may not continue. And at the end of the day, you got to protect your gear. So, and again, I have to rely on voice feedback from meters. Everybody else could casually look at their tuner meters and their amplifier meters, and they could see an SWR creep and stop. I can't with the voice. You know, it takes probably about a second for me to key up and hit the voice. Even in the middle of transmitting, I wouldn't get to the voice announcement in time to hear a 3 or 4 to 1 SWR with the amplifier. Proof of the concept. If you put a nice coil on it, get an SWR, you can load it. And I guess if you got that extra little thing called sight, you can monitor your meters for SWR creep and stop before something happens. I don't think I can. So I think at the end of the day, I'm probably going to unfeed this thing again, which I had the utmost confidence in when I did before. And yeah, I got the arguments that your antenna wasn't very efficient, but at the same time, I was getting S9 plus reports in the Midwest US and Canada, into Europe. And my MFJ 998 was tuning out a 10 to 1 SWR on 80, but it worked. It just worked. And yeah, okay, I lost half my power. I guess I can only imagine if I put my whole kilowatt instead of 500, but I was fully confident in that product, and I think that's where my head is at right now. That next week I will probably scrap that coil system for a more permanent solution later on the summer, get it enclosed, and set it up for 160 alone, bypassing the anode. So that's where I'm at. All right, so that's the video. I hope you enjoy it. And again, I want to thank all my subscribers. Keep subscribing. I really appreciate you. I do. And I hope that this video and all the rest of my content up there will be of some use to you. I'm happy to do it. And you know, maybe someone's on the internet and needs to see how Wires X is set up, or any antenna comparisons, or any even antenna experiments like this video shows you. And hopefully it'll be of a use. And again, I want to thank you all, and you know, all comments welcome. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care. 7-3.